Good evening. I'd like to call the April 16th Town Council meeting to order. Please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Good evening. The first order of business is to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve March 26, 2018 minutes? A second? Second. So that was Matt and Jill? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have a showcase, and we have the URI Senate, and it looks like I see one of the URI students, so I'm going to ask you to come to the podium, and I see Alfred just walking in the door. As you're coming up, I do want to make a couple of important announcements that are happening. One is this Saturday on the 21st. It's a celebration of Earth Day. The town has partnered with many different organizations throughout the town to create a Saturday, April 21st, Earth Day cleanup from 1 to 3, and all participants from all organizations throughout the town are welcome to join us. We'll be meeting Saturday at 1 o'clock in the South Lot to get assignments, so we look forward to that. And speaking of the Earth Day, I see the two students here from the URI Senate. They're going to introduce themselves and just take 10 minutes or so to tell us about what the URI Senate's been doing, and I know the cleanup will be part of that conversation. So, Alfred.
Hey, my name's Alfred Bailey. So we've recently gone through a change. So there's been an election, and we've had some new people join us, one of them being Avi.
Welcome.
So we have a lot of fresh faces on the Senate. I will continue to be a liaison until someone who is really motivated or wants to take my place. But if that doesn't happen within this semester, I will probably continue to serve as a liaison until the end of next semester. We've been working on catching people up who just joined us in our committee to what's going on, what goes on at the Narragansett Town Council meetings, and we really look forward to working with the Town Council and continuing to improve our relationship and collaborate more. It's very important to us. Aside from that, it's really exciting that we're having this big cleanup. We have so many members from both the town of Narragansett and also several groups from URI have been spreading the word about the event. We have a couple environmental groups that have assured us that they'll have members attending. I really hope for good weather. That really helps with turnout. I know I'll be there regardless. And I would really urge anybody who's here to spread the word to all those in the town or other people. We will continue to spread the word throughout this week to make sure that we can get as big a turnout as possible. Aside from that, that's pretty much it right now.
Great job, Alfred. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Alfred a lot. That's a tough act to follow, but he's done. I really want to.
Do you want to state your name too?
Right. I was about to get to that, but my name is Avril Shrivastava. I'm an accounting political science student at the University of Rhode Island, and I was just elected to Student Senate as...
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to be on external affairs, and I'd like to echo a lot with what Alfred said. I also want to thank him a lot for his work. He's somebody who's really worked hard for Senate, and we're sad that he's not going to be here much longer, but I'd like to echo what he said. Definitely please spread the word about the cleanup. The environment is absolutely important. We have to take care of our towns and make sure that we have a clean environment, so please join us. And obviously this is my first town hall meeting in Narragansett, so I'm not as informed on some of the issues, but I will be, and I'm hoping to work with the town council and come together and solve issues that are, pertaining to students, so that we can really just have an even better Narragansett. So thank you.
So thank you, and I just want to commend you both. One of the reasons we put the showcase on tonight was to highlight the student leadership at URI and show that we can work together in the town of Narragansett. So Alfred and the newcomer, we appreciate your work and your leadership, and we look forward to communicating on lots of town issues, and we're happy that the cleanup is certainly a way to present and show that you care about the town. So thank you both for your work, and we look forward to a long partnership. And nice job, gentlemen. We'll see you soon. Okay, moving on the agenda, we have open forum. When you come up, please state your name, your address, and you have your 3 minutes. So who'd like to speak? Richard?
Richard Vankerish, 55 Osceola, on behalf
Richard, I
of-
think you got to pull it up a little bit so we can hear you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay,
No,
Yeah.
well, closer to your mouth, right? There you go.
there we go. On behalf of the Narragansett Town Finance Committee, I'd like to thank Harris Chorney for his years of service as chairman. Harris did a magnificent job as chair and truly deserves a great deal of credit, especially on the OPEB issue. I hope the town council will note this vacancy and request applicants to join the Finance Committee.
Thank you, and I echo the same on behalf of the town. Great job for Harris, and we wish him the very best. Thank you. Paul?
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. According to the website opensecrets.org, it's a website that tracks campaign contributions. Gilbane has donated $63,000 to Congressman Cicilline's campaign since 2009, making them the #3 donor of all time. Now, I really wish this had been disclosed at the beginning of the process. And I want to make it clear, I'm not making any accusations of wrongdoing or collusion, but it could be argued that something like this not coming out can cast a shadow over the whole library process. And I mean, we've had some anomalies, like the October 16th meeting that was moved to the high school, kind of not quite in concert with the charter. Mr. Gilbane got 9 minutes to speak at that meeting, everybody else got 3. And, there was a meeting between Patrick and you and Mr. Gilbane that some of the other council people didn't know about. So again, I'm not questioning any wrongdoing or talking about lack of
Feels like
integrity.
that, but go ahead.
What I'm saying is we should be very above board as we go forward and have maximum transparency as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and I assure you, there's been absolute transparency. Thank you. Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I want to speak about discrimination. We just mentioned justice for all. Everybody should be treated equally. There shall be no injustice. And I just want to highlight a few areas where I figure there may be an injustice. And one is, I understand we give a tax break to the elderly at the expense of other taxpayers. So, we're all equal. And I'm not so sure the elderly, and I'm an elderly person, we don't deserve a tax break at the burden of some of the families in town. Okay? If the elderly are in trouble, they get a reverse mortgage on their home. And if they got, I just read in the paper where these South Kingston Elks, they're offering free home repairs and supporting outreach programs that assist low-income South County households. So there's no reason to have a tax break on the backs of other people. And then I'll also bring out the veterans. Again, I'm a veteran, but, you know, I don't want a tax break. I hope Mary didn't go for one. I don't want a tax break. Don't give me a tax break and it falls on, say, a lower-income family in this town. Most veterans, they learn how to provide for themselves. And, you know, they can check out all the veterans organizations. You got the Veterans Hospital. They get a lot of support. And I'm sure they don't want to be a burden to their neighbor. So they don't need a special tax break. And then lastly, I'll bring out the homestead tax break. Here we're going to give a tax break to one class of citizens at the expense of someone else. And in this case, very possible that a multi-million-dollar estate will receive a tax break. And again, the potential homeowner or the person trying to rent to own, the rental person, the person who's renting a house or wherever to try and save money in order to buy a home is taxed at a higher level while we give a break to the multimillionaire somewhere.
Thank you.
Again, the whole thing is
Thank
a
you,
matter
Stanley.
of fairness,
Thank you.
equality, and justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine?
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court.
Can you move it down, Catherine?
Yep, there's an item on the consent agenda. It's the renewal of the miscellaneous licenses, and one of the license applications is the Summer Place Inn on Narragansett Avenue, and they're asking for a motel license. They want to rent 21 rooms. Now, the Summer Place Inn is this huge wooden structure built in 1880. I know it has balloon construction. The fire chief is here. He'll tell you how fire can spread through a balloon construction building. But the fire marshal hasn't had a chance to inspect it. And I don't think we should give them a license before he has a chance to inspect the building and make some decision about, do they need sprinklers, do they need a second means of egress, or whatever.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can... Anybody else wishing to speak? Come on up. Oh.
Good evening. I hadn't planned to talk on the taxes, but it seemed that it was brought up. The gentleman, I'm very happy that they gave me a little money off. Again, I'm sorry.
Your name, sir?
Oh, Tom Dolan. And you don't have to apply for that. You know, I went many years without applying for it, and so happened I hit the age, too, when I applied for it. And if the gentleman doesn't have to apply for it and get it. That being said, I agree with him. You know, we probably don't need that. But on the last part of it, and this is something that it's probably premature now, but when the tax rolls are set up, and I've been arguing this for years, I live in an area that is predominantly rental property. And they have to use a formula, they have to use square footage, and they have to use something else. But in Eastwood Look, a house is based on the number of bedrooms in that house, not on my linoleum floor and my Formica countertops. The granite countertops in the other houses that are closer to the beach and have 6 bedrooms are worth much, much more than my house. But yet, because I have a better curb appeal, I'm assessed at my house is worth over $1 million based on the equation of the way the houses are selling in the area at $460 and $525. And if that's the case, those homes are valued almost twice and 3 times what mine is. That means I've got well over, I think I love this, but of course, it's not fair. And I'm going to ask you as local council members to use some common sense and think about the evaluation process, probably by a computer with algorithms saying, this is what this house is worth. But in this area, when rental property, much closer to the ocean than my home, is worth much, much less. And who do I appeal to? I have to appeal to a board, which I've done in the past, that's made up of realtors that represent 5 of the other houses in front of me. The nepotism, I don't know if it's that way, but it so happens it's working out that way, that I am way overtaxed. And of course, I know that if I try and refute it, what's going to happen. But something should be done on the common sense level, not on the computer and an agency that comes from out of state. If that's where they come from, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else wishing to speak?
My name is Albert Rinaldi, 93 Tupelo Trail. I'm
Hi,
a
Al.
resident, and I'm also the president of Narragansett 2100, the landlord organization. We are thrilled to be sponsoring the Earth Day cleanup with the town and also with the Student Senate. We look forward to further collaboration as we move forward with other endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Now it's your turn. Mr. Traeger, long time no see.
Yes, I haven't been able to get over for quite a while for a number of reasons, but
Yeah, so,
lately it's been because I've been skiing up in New Hampshire. So.
well, you look great. It's Bob Traeger for the
Oh,
record.
Bob Traeger from the other side of the tracks, only it's the other side of the channel.
Yeah.
But it's really the other side of the tracks, too. But I'm not here to do that. I've been up there in New Hampshire. I listen to C-SPAN all the time. I listen to Washington Journal every morning, listen to the NewsHour every night. And you know the world we're living in. And to me, the business of the world begins here. And that can be a fortunate thing, and that can be an unfortunate thing. For me, my experiences generally with the town have always been pretty good, but the last overall one we had wasn't too good. But anyway, that is why I wanted to speak tonight. I was so impressed with what went on with the students from Florida and then all over the nation and then all over the world, and their ability to stand up in front of much more of an audience than we have here today and express their feelings and desires, and I thought they did it with such articulate, I just was overwhelmed by how good they handled themselves. Now I'm worried because several days have gone by, maybe a week has gone by, and I think this is the way of the world. Now that I'm shooting around 80 years old, I'm beginning to understand that, not that I'm beginning to understand, I've always understood it in a way that, attrition's going to happen, so this ball keeps rolling and it can keep rolling. It's hard to stop certain directions that the world goes in, and I mean, we know what we're into. We're bombing things, we're killing people, we're doing all the stuff. I mean, and it's being done all over the world, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I was wondering if anybody could tell me whether or not the students in this community took part in that, in their, some of their demonstrations or not, and I was wondering if, I haven't really heard, because I haven't been here. This is my third day back.
I'm not
I call it
sure.
back to reality.
Inside Assembly.
Yeah, they
moment of
did
silence.
school stuff, but I mean, as far as,
Assembly, moment of
yeah,
silence.
yeah,
In
they
high
did
school?
moment of silence, assembly kind of
They
stuff,
did-
but
they did
I don't know that they
participate in-
traveled.
They didn't march. They didn't go outside and
Yeah.
march.
Good. I wish I knew how to have a forum, because I really would love these kids to keep going. I think they've got it. They've got more than just the words. They've
Thank-
got the votes.
Thank you, we'll pass that on too.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
I'm going to try to come back because
Good, nice to see you.
it's hard, but I'm going to do it.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else wishing to speak? Karen?
I've been pretty sick for the last
You have to say your name.
Karen Chebshello at Wanda Street, Narragansett.
Thank you.
I've been pretty sick for the last 6 months, and I swore I wasn't going to come to any more council meetings because they just get me really upset. And at the last council meeting, a certain individual followed me out and starts talking about it's my son's car that he's renting and working 2 jobs so I could use a car because I have no car. And that his suit came from the Johnny Cake Center. I could care less. And he was talking about my relatives who I'm related to but don't speak to, that have more money than their blood runs green. But this kind of harassment is totally inappropriate and unnecessary, and I don't know what you can do about it, but I ran into somebody in CVS that experienced the same experience from the same individual. And it is very, very upsetting to have this happen at a town hall or in the town parking lot. And I know we have a town sergeant, but this is the second time around for me because the same individual caused a lot of problems with special ed, didn't want to spend a penny on it. So I'm just saying it leaves a culture of intimidation, coercion, and harassment. And it better not happen again. This individual's wife also came up to me in the shoe store. I mean, you can't get away from it. You can't make it up. So I just wanted to comment. The town council should be here for the good of the community, not to save a certain individual a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing no hands in the audience, we're going to move on. We have a public hearing at 8 on the budget, so let's move to the consent agenda. Are there any items from the council anybody wants to pull on the agenda?
Based on what we heard, let's remove item number 8.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, absent motion 8? Or
So
number
moved.
8?
Second.
Mike and then Patrick, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Motion 8, a motion to approve a miscellaneous license application for Dockside Deli, 294 Great Island Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island, subject to local and state regulations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. So maybe we could have the fire chief come up and...
What, is this the item that was referred to
Yeah.
by the public?
No, this is
Oh,
It's
a
the wrong
hotel.
one.
oh,
I couldn't
This is a
find it
deli
the
on Great Island.
which one did Catherine Celeberto? 9.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we could approve the consent, can we redo that then, Mark? Approve the consent agenda with absent of 9, not 8.
You can correct that.
All right, so we're going to make that correction. All those in favor of the consent agenda, absent of 9. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Number 9, a motion to approve 2018 miscellaneous license renewal application for peddler's license, soldier and sailor peddler license, and private detective license, all subject to state and local regulations. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay. So this is the one that Catherine spoke to.
It doesn't appear that it resembles anything to do with the building and fire code, and this is a detective license renewals.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Did you see it? I didn't see it.
No, I know, but,
I don't
so we
see-
pulled the item because
Yeah,
because
she
Ms.
brought it to our
Celebretto
attention.
brought it to our attention.
That's
so-
right. So
I
if
thought it
anybody
was
has
8,
any concerns,
But
There was a list of all the licenses, so
yes, there was. It was complete. So does any member of the council have an issue with number 9? Anybody wishing to speak on it in the public discussion? Catherine. So it seems like the council's satisfied with the license in the packet, but go ahead, Catherine.
This, Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court, this is one of the license applications that's on this big, long list in number 9. You know, there's all kinds of license applications, peddler's license, soldier's license, all these other ones, and some are rooming houses, some are whatever. And one of them happens to be a license application from actually the executor of the estate of the previous owner.
Can you tell me which one it is?
Which one? Oh, it's
On the
right now.
list that you referred
Yeah,
to?
there's a
Okay,
big, long
boy.
list.
Do you have the address or the name, Catherine?
It's 87 Narragansett Avenue.
Okay.
87?
Yeah. Pretty sure it's 87 Narragansett Avenue. Let me see what page it's on.
Summer House Inn Motel, 87
That's it.
Narragansett Avenue, 21
That's the
rooms.
one. He's trying to get a motel license. He wants to rent 21 rooms. Now, I went on Vision Appraisal, and it said it had 9 bedrooms and 9 baths. I don't know where the 21 rooms are coming from that he plans to rent. But again, the fire marshal hasn't had a chance to inspect. There is technically a change of ownership, and when that happens, there's rules that apply, according to the state fire marshal's office. In other words, the place is a big old place that needs to be inspected and has to be.
And can you tell me,
Before, Mike, and
Hold on.
see what the problem is, I think the backup doesn't match the item.
That's what the
That's
problem
why.
is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at
So,
okay.
I
so
don't
8
have-
and 9 are jumbled in the packet and in the electronic
That's the
version.
confusion for
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, my objection is this
Yeah.
one place getting a motel license.
Okay.
And to renting 21 rooms.
Thank you.
Okay.
So so Ann, because they don't have the right, or it's kind of confused. How do
Well, no,
we wanna-
so 9 has the spreadsheet,
Right.
right? So my question then pertains to, excuse me, the Summer House Inn, here it is, Summer House Inn Motel, 87 Narragansett Avenue. So the licenses that they're asking to be renewed, there's 3. Taxes, WNS, what does that stand for? Do we know?
Taxes?
Taxes, WNS, wastewater.
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer, wastewater, and building and zoning.
Those are approvals by the departments.
Right.
And then under notes, it says 21 rooms.
Right. This is a renewal. He gets the same.
So this is already
It's
existing?
been like
Yes.
that.
Okay.
It
Yes,
is.
it's just.
All right.
And I know,
Okay.
And Chief, as far as you know, there are no violations for fire code?
The fire marshal is working on all the license renewals. He hasn't finished them.
But there are no violations, is what I'm saying.
Not
So,
that
okay,
I'm aware.
Okay.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We have a spill here, and we want to organize our packet. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you. do that. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We were on motion number 9. There was a discussion about the renewal of this license, and in consulting with the town solicitor, it has to comply with state and local regulations. So if we have an issue, then we can't grant the license. So just so everybody understands that if there's an issue with it, we won't distribute the license, correct?
Your approval is subject to state and local conformance with all ordinances and laws. So you can approve it, but it's still subject to the inspections and approvals of the ordinance and laws.
Thank you. Any other discussion on number 9? All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
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 5-0, motion passes. It's 8 o'clock. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, the public hearing is open, and it's going to be Laura and Jim. What? Ann, is there an issue? No, okay. So that's Jim and Laura? Jim and Laura, there you go.
Thank you,
It's all
Madam.
yours.
Thank you, Madam President. So tonight I will present to you the proposed fiscal year 18-19 budget, and I'll go over a PowerPoint. Should take about 10 or 15 minutes. I'd like to thank Laura Kenyon, the Finance Director. This has been it's a very labor-intensive skill and procedure to get to this point with this budget. It's line by line. We sit in the office for weeks on end with the directors, just going over past expenditures and projections for the future. I'd also like to thank the tax assessor, David Doltz. There are some slides that are coming up in here that go over the revaluation. He hit the ground running with our statistical reval this year. He's done a tremendous job. We've had approximately 400 people show up at the hearings so far, which is in line with other towns percentage-wise, to just go over the numbers of what their new assessments are. Also like to thank the entire finance department. They put together a lot of paperwork and statistical analysis for us to get to this point. I'll go to the first slide. What's new in fiscal year 18-19? Tax exemptions. We will continue the homestead. This is the second year for the homestead exemption in town of Narragansett, with a maximum of 10% reduction in assessment for year-round owner-occupied residential properties. In fiscal year 17-18, there were 2,802 applicants for the homestead. Fiscal year 18-19, there were 3,300 applicants for the homestead exemption. If you look at the estimated assessed value of the homestead exemption, in fiscal year 17-18, it was $127,390,000. In fiscal year 18-19, it was $150,031,000. So what does that translate to? If you put a decimal point after the first number, in fiscal year 17-18, there was a 1.27 amount of taxes that we had to make up that was taken by the homestead, used by the homesteaders. And in fiscal year 18-19, it was 1.5 million. The tangible and commercial property is at 140% this year of the residential rate compared to 150% last year. If you look at the bottom line on this chart, it says the cost to the residential property owners for the change in the commercial rate to 140% from 150% is $335,374, or 7 cents on a dollar on the tax rate. Let's go over the impact of revaluation on the tax rates. In the 17-18 budget, the assessment of the total assets in the town of Narragansett, all properties, was approximately $4 billion, $447 million, with the tax levy of $48,912,000. With the new assessment for 17 and 18, the
the assessment, the total assessment is approximately $5 billion, or $4.954 million, with a tax levy possible of $54,318,000, with a difference of $5,405,000 increase that if we went by the assessment from 17-18 compared to, correction, from 18-19 compared to 17-18. The tax rate for residential real estate in 2017-2018 budget was $10.56 on 1,000. On the 18-19 budget, the proposed tax rate would be $9.96. In the middle of this page, you'll see that the additional revenue due to revaluation of the property values would equal $5,405,000 more if the rates were not changed. But state law prohibits an increase of more than 4% on the levy. So that would equate to the maximum that we could add to the tax levy would be $1.956 million. Next slide. The increase in funding, what's notable in this budget, the increase in funding for the capital projects is substantial. There's 100% funding of the contribution for the pension funds and the OPEB fund. I might add, this is the first time ever that town of Narragansett has fully funded its pension and OPEB, and I know that's extremely important, not only to the town council, but for the residents. No additional positions have required to provide the continued high level of services. We have not added any new positions this year that weren't already existed last year. What's in the capital projects? First line, the library project would be a $5.8 million bond, where this year in 2019, the debt service would be $109,000 in interest. In next year, in 2020 budget, it would be a total of $483,000, of which $290,000 would be principal and $193,000 would be interest for that same bond. On the second line, library project, a $400,000 note, anticipating that if we buy the liquor store, we'd have to finance that separately. The debt service in 2019 would be $7,000, and in 2020 it would be $53,000. Line 3, the road construction, $5 million bond, which is the estimate we would need this year to continue the projects. The debt service would be $94,000 interest in 2019, and in 2020, that amount would rise to $444,000 of debt service. The fire vehicle replacement, $425,000 would be for a pumper truck. Town hall renovation, $390,000, next line. That would include a brick facade, locking doors, new lighting, and new windows. The police vehicle replacement program, $135,000 would be what we budget, proposed budget for 3 new vehicles. Road improvements, $350,000. That would be for items such as potholes and chip sealing. Park improvements, $400,000. That'd be for $100,000 for a new camp, $125,000 for the community center, a new vehicle of $150,000, and court resurfacing. Next line would be public works equipment and vehicles, $410,000. That would include items such as the payloader for $140,000, 2 snow plows, 1 dump truck, 1 pickup truck. Next line, parks, vehicle, equipment, and vehicles, $135,000. That would be for a single item, a backhoe. Storm drain replacement, $125,000. Other miscellaneous projects, $128,000. That would include items such as Middlebridge, $48,000, Kinney Bungalow, $50,000, which would be for a new elevator. The water reading program, $600,000, which would be paid by the Water Enterprise Fund. And the wastewater pump station upgrade, $695,000 paid by the wastewater fund. This is a graph of the capital projects funding. I'll just give you a few minutes to look at it. So you'll see that in the blue, there's a gradual increase in the general fund for infrastructure improvement, which is greatly needed in this town, especially on the town hall. You'll notice in 2018 compared to 2019, there's only a $200,000 increase in the general fund for the capital projects. The general fund allocations excluding the school transfers. If you go to the left side where it's under personnel, you'll notice in the 2018 budget, it was $19,479,000 for personnel costs for the town. That would increase by $1 million for the 19 proposed budget of $20,422,000. Although that might sound like a large increase in personnel costs, we anticipated that because of the concessions the union made, both unions, Council 94 and 1033, regarding OPEB. And even though that $1 million might seem substantial, it's money well spent, and you'll see in the next series of slides of what it will do long-term for this town by making those concessions. If you go to the far right under total budget, bottom two lines, last year's budget was $58,152,000. This year it's $60,128,000, which is a $2 million increase or 3.44%. General funds transfer, excluding school transfer. This slide here shows a very important number. If you look on the 2018 budget and you go to the OPEB trust on the right, 2018 budget OPEB trust, you'll see a figure of $2.8 million that was put in for the OPEB payments last year, which was underfunded. The 2019 budget, bottom row, go over to the same line, OPEB trust, you'll see $3.2 million. That's a $400,000 increase. That is what gives the town a fully funded OPEB contribution. Although it says $400,000 that it went up, we had planned to put in $200,000 anyway as the normal increase that we would put year to year. And if you noticed on the OPEB trust, it went up approximately $200,000 from 16 to 17, 17 to 18. For that extra $200,000, we're fully funded, which is extremely important, and you'll see in the next slides. If you look at this slide here, you'll see the top line is green, middle line is red, and the bottom line is blue. This is the annual determined contribution comparison for OPEB. If you look at the blue line on the, well, let's look at the green line first on top. That's the pay-as-you-go annual determined contribution. That is currently the path that we would be on right now if we just funded the way we have in years past. You'll notice that on the right side of that graph, there's a major disparity. And if you go down and you look at the numbers, go to all the way to 2045, you see the disparity is 6.1 million per year versus 3.4 million in the blue line. The blue line at the bottom is the proposed budget with the fully funded OPEB. You can see that line is fairly stable from 2017 to 2045, but you can see the numbers that you would save if you're looking 20 years out. Once again, another graph, the OPEB annual determined contribution comparison. The green line is the pay-as-you-go, which is what the current practice is in Narragansett, and the proposed increase of that additional amount of money in the OPEB funding. The bottom left, you'll see a statistic that's very important. In 2045, if we do put that proposed amount of money into the OPEB payments, the OPEB will be approximately 84% funded. We raised that number to 86.4% when we redid the numbers today. Whereas if we just went with the pay-as-you-go, it would be approximately 60% funded, or as the numbers generated today were 65% on the next page. This was a graph that was provided to us by Nyhart. And if you look at it, the top line, the top bars, the blue bars, is the liability to the town currently. If you go all the way to the right side, 2047, that is the liability. You can see it goes up substantially. But look at the blue line in the middle. That is the line that was most important to me when this decision was made. That would be the line that would, if you go to the far right, it would be at 86%. That is that number that we came up with today, 86% funded for OPEB liability if we make those increased payments over the next 20 to 30 years. And the red bars are what the funding is. So the red bars are the dollars, the blue bars are is the liability in dollars, and that straight blue line is the percentage that we would be at for funding. What is the impact on taxes? With the change to exemptions, revaluation, and the increase for the budget, the proposed tax rate for residential property is 9.96 per thousand. Commercial tax rate is 13.95 per thousand. Fiscal year 17-18 rates were 10.56 and 15.84 per thousand. The tax levy increase of approximately 1.9 million represents 3.73% more than the current year. The total assessments increased approximately 10% across the board. This is an illustration of the tax reval and the rate. I'll jump around a little. I'm sure you can follow me once I explain it. So in fiscal year 17-18, the median home price was $355,000. Fiscal year 18-19, the median home price is $408,000. So if the value was $355,000 at 10.56 rate for 17-18, the tax on that home would be $3,749. If you look at 18-19, where the median price went up $408,000 to $408,000, and the tax rate was 9.96, the taxes would be $4,064, or an increase over the prior year of $315. What's next? The complete town budget will be presented at the Town Council work sessions April 24, 25, 26. The school committee and Town Council have a work session on April 30th. And another public hearing on the complete budget is May 7th. The adoption of the Town Council budget by ordinance is May 21st and June 4th. That's it, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Anybody from the public wishing to comment on the budget? Stanley. And again, those dates next week are the 24th, the 25th, the 26th at 6 o'clock. So all are welcome to attend those workshops. Go ahead, Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett again. First, I want to commend Town Manager. We have no new positions. That's a breath of fresh air to hear that. We have good staff, and they're handling the job. So I guess it's details that we got to try and minimize. As I told you before, I'd like to get closer to the inflation number, and based on the document I gave you, Social Security inflation number was closer to 2%, and here we are at 3.73%. And I think you may find, you're better qualified to find the spots where we can trim. You know, I've constantly argued about police cars. You know, instead of 3, can we do 2? You know, not a big thing, some of the details. Trucks, instead of numerous trucks, maybe we can just do 1 truck. You know, we get stainless steel trucks out there, it looks like. Maybe they're gonna last longer, so maybe we can slow that down a little bit, so some of our capital can be slowed down. Maintenance on a town hall. Again, we can slow it down. We need it, but I'm not so sure. I don't see it crumbling yet. We did a new roof, and I know the brick doesn't look great, but maybe there's some details there. So I just kind of beg you to, you find them for us and justify them. You help us out on that, because I'm sure you got more on details. But the other thing that's probably really comes out at me is the surplus. I've talked about it before, and then I had the book I took the other day when I went to a meeting, and it said surplus, school surplus 1.73 million. Town surplus was running, let's see if I can find that town surplus here somewhere. $2 million surplus. You have surpluses out there, and then I read in the paper, the school committee approves a $750,000 HVAC system and another $250,000 addition onto that. $1 million adding for air conditioning.
So, thank you, Stanley.
And I...
Sorry, time's up. But I'll see you at the workshop.
Okay, yes. I just figure there is a lot.
And that $1 million
room for-
surplus on the school side is embedded in their budget, so it's not really $1 million. We'll talk more about that.
Well, the
Yeah.
book says so. That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
confusion. I
Yeah.
read the book. I see the book. I believe the book.
We know
It's
you'll be at
different
the
from book, I
workshop,
guess.
Stanley.
Okay, thank you. very
Thank
much.
you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Richard?
So it's heating and cooling.
Dang it. How come I can't?
Yeah, on behalf of the Finance Committee, you know, obviously, we are extremely happy with the OPEB plan. This is, I think we've come a long way. You can't say you've come a long way, baby, anymore, because fear of lawsuits. But in 2009, we had a liability of OPEB of $70 million with 0 in the trust fund. And, you know, here we are in 2018, and we've got hope because somebody is looking at the year 2047. What you could say in 2047, we'll be in heaven. Or more importantly, we can plan, when we plan. And this is something we've got to continue on for 30 more years, and we've got to get in this habit of looking at long-term finance, long-term financial planning. The savings we will have 30 years from now are staggering because we're doing this now. And this is something that is alien to the process of people. We can't look that far in the future anymore. So I have to commend the town manager. I know Laura Kenyon, who has done a tremendous job. Interesting, the town committee here on it, and also the NIHOT representative on OPEB, and you see his report there, did a tremendous job in pushing the advantages of a long-term plan. We can when we plan.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else wishing to speak on the budget? Bob? Just state your name and address.
Bob Traeger, skip stock, spend more time there than I do at home, even with a 3-month break in the winter. Anyway, I thought just because there was one item in this presentation that I noticed that I would like to say I'm happy to hear that the commercial rate went down 10%. But I really believe, and I did receive some kind of help from the town council, one of the town council members, and I realized I fell short of doing what's necessary to be influential. I know that I'm on the low end of influence. But I would say that if there are many businesses that I'm not telling you anything, I'm just talking, that are seasonal, and we happen to have a seasonal business. And in the last few years, between the flood insurance and the taxes that we're paying to this town, I don't know how the hell we do it. I really don't. If my wife wasn't dealing with it, I'd be dead now. I'd be under the ground. I know that. I've said that, and I've said it more than once. And it's the truth. I know it, because I'd never be able to stand the stress. I just think that why it ever got to be this commercial rate, I don't know what that was all about. I don't think in those terms that often. I think in other ways. But it does affect, I will just say that right now, taxes and insurance could take a person that we've been working for 40 years at Skip Stock. Over 40 years. Over 40 years. That's after I did, I was a school educator for a while, quite a while, about 22 years of that, too. And I don't know. It's not any easier. It might be for a lot of people right now, it might be easier. But it's not easier for people that really work for a living. And I'll just leave that thought with you.
Thank you. Karen.
Ian.
Susan knows I attended the...
Karen, you have to state your
Karen
name.
Chapshelowitz, Wanda Street. I attended the recreation meeting last Wednesday evening, hoping they would come up with more programs for seniors, and I was very disappointed. After that, I wrote a letter to the editor, and not shockingly, I got a few phone calls from people that I'd never met who were very glad I'd written the letter and relayed to me stories about seniors that don't drive anymore, can't get around, and I have no idea who these people were. And I have a serious concern about how many seniors I put in the paper between 3,000 and 3,500. Is that inaccurate? How many seniors we have in town?
Karen, I would have to, I saw that number. It seemed a little high to me, but what number are you using as an age? 55, 57, 60, what?
I just heard that there were that many seniors from Karen Flint, and I had asked at the comprehensive plan meetings from the consultant.
Karen, you have to talk this way. Put your mic down. Yeah.
Well, I'm not the statistician. I just was given that information. I don't have any more accurate information, but it seems to me there are as many seniors as there are school students, and even though you're very proud not to have added any staff, I have serious concerns about why there isn't more staff at the senior center and why we can't even get more comfortable chairs rather than folding chairs, which I've been asking about for a year. Well, it's like talking to the wall, Susan, because it's important for seniors. Like, I have arthritis. I can't sit in those folding chairs for an hour to play Scrabble. And why they can't at least buy us chairs, maybe we can get a donation from the Cardis or some, but why they're refusing to, I know you had the fundraiser, and you're the only one that's really stood up for the seniors, Susan. You're the only one. But it's pretty pathetic. The seniors are a big part of the town. and we don't offer them hardly anything. Thank you.
So I just have to comment because of the formation of the Narragansett Senior Advisory. So I just want to say that they've been doing tons of things. Karen Flint, Steve Wright, there's been tons of things done around the seniors. And Karen, the timer stopped. I'm just responding. And that people are working very hard to create programs and support the seniors. So I appreciate what you're saying. We ordered the chairs. We've talked about that. So thank you. You have to hear what we're saying in the town. Things don't happen overnight. We are working very hard to support the seniors in this community, and lots more to come. But we, under Steve's leadership with Karen, believe me when I tell you, thank you. Okay, anybody else
Karen
wishing?
works very hard.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Thank you, Karen. About the budget. About the budget. We're going to get back onto the topic of the budget. I know seniors are part of that discussion. Please state your name and address.
Stephen Ferrandy, 44 Sylvan Road. Thank you, council members. I just have one, actually it's a clarification. I know these are all preliminary numbers and it's just the beginning and it's going to be vetted out. And I looked at the library, I realized that's a $5.8 million bond. Now I know if there's the liquor store's purchase, it's going to be $400,000 as it stands at this point. Is that, am I assuming, I was told that this was going to be town funds to have to purchase this to add to the library or in the configuration. Is this going to be bonded or borrowed within that? Is that what that showed? Or is this, where is that, how is that money going to come from the town budget?
Do you want to speak
as
to
it's
Jeff?
proposed at this point?
At this point, it appears we would borrow that and not in the bond and pay for it on a yearly basis.
So that's going to be bonded. So actually, it's the 5.8, and if you add the 400,000, it's going to be more like a $6.2 million bond at this point for the whole encompassed part of the library.
Well, that number, if you add 5.8 plus the 400,000, yes, but we're not certain that we're going to go to bond on the 400,000 yet.
Okay. All right, and then also there's also a loss of tax revenue from that particular Belmont site if it becomes the town. Was that figured into the, I mean, how much is that per year that was the tax bill was? I don't know if I'm, in other words, we're going to take a tax property that was taxed. Now, if the town moves in there, we're going to have, if that comes off the tax rolls.
We do have that number, Madam President. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. That clears it up at this point. I know things, may change or whatever, and I know there's, and there was no mention of the camp fees at this point. I know that was out there, so, and maybe it's still in negotiations, but, might be something to consider as things move forward with this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When we get a final number on the CAM fees, the council's going to, that was an open term of the contract, so the council's going to have to then vote on what that number is. And Mark will come back to us with that number.
Thank you.
And we have, Susan has arranged for an executive session on the 7th of May
So-
for us to be advised what that is.
Yeah, so that meeting is May 7th at 6:45. We'll be briefed with the attorney, and then we'll have a better understanding of that. Anybody else wishing to speak on the budget? No other comments on the budget from the public? Any comments from the council?
So our job coming up in the workshops is we are presented with a 3.7% increase from the prior year. So traditionally, then the council's job is to start to look at all the departments, the operating and the capital expenses, and try to get that to be lower for the taxpayers. So we're always trying to make taxes as low as possible. So that's the work we do next week. So.
Again, everybody's welcome to come. Those workshops are really the nuts and bolts of the work, so you hear from all the departments, and I urge you to come out because that's the work, and you can hear what's in the budget from each department, so hope to see you then. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Public hearing is closed. We're moving on to new business. Motion 12, a motion to adopt an ordinance and amendment, Chapter 731, the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning.
So
Text
moved.
revision to Section 113 and Section 221. Requirements of a public hearing and notice. This was from Mike. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Did you guys?
So all opposed?
Let me do that again. All those in favor?
Aye.
3. All those opposed?
No.
3-2, motion passes. Number 13, a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 54, Article 3 of the Code of Ordinances in the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Personnel. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a, this is, the prior language, and this may not mean anything, Mark, but it says while he is engaged in outside employment, and the new language says while he is engaged in outside employment. Does that cover he and she, or them, or those?
There's a definitional section in the ordinance that...
That does say he means...
Yeah, he means...
Everybody.
Every iteration thereof.
Good.
All set?
All set.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Number 14, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue to May 7th. I just want to...
Move that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dill, is that an aye?
Yeah, I said aye.
5-0, motion passes. That will be continued to the 7th. 15, a motion to authorize the town's participation in a financial and analysis contract with B&E Consulting LLC being administered by the town of South Kingston on behalf of Narragansett and South Kingston and Union Fire District relative to January 30th, 2018 rate increase filing by Suez Water of Rhode Island. This comes on by Jeff. Do
So
I have
moved.
a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm happy to see this, actually. No discussion. Anybody from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 16, a motion to approve the filling of the position of water operator due to the exit of an individual in this position from the town's employee or employer. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Anybody from the council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is that 5-0? Thank you. 16, a motion to approve the contract amendment number 7 with the RT Group, Inc. for survey ground and underwater and preliminary engineering assistance for the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility Asset Protection Project in the amount of $23,190. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion from the council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Motion 18, a motion to approve the purchase of sand and the distribution of existing sand just prior to the beach season from George Sherman Sand and Gravel Company, Inc., utilizing the miscellaneous repair and construction contract in the amount not to exceed $19,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion.
I have just one quick question.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's a quick question, Steve. It's not, I don't want to get into debate, but I just want to ask, has there been any consideration ever given to a full-blown beach replenishment plan like they do down south?
Oh, that's a great question, Steve.
Great question. So we're gonna take a look at that, the Rec Advisory Board, over the summer for this coming fall. So we'll take a look at that because we did do some work on that over the last couple of years. So we'll take a look at some more dune work and dune fence, and then come back to you in the fall with that.
Great. Thank you.
So again, I know I've been really pushing that because Dennis Lynch had done so much work on the beach restoration, and we've talked so much about the beach with this council, so it is an important issue, and after the season, we want to make sure we have a beach to fight for our residents, so we do need to build it out. So it was a great question, and I've been kind of on that to go on the Park and Rec Advisory Board.
But the short answer is what we're doing every spring is the most minimum we can do, and for the beach season, and it's
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. I just was curious if that was being explored, that's all.
And I have a question on the sand. Is it similar to the sand that we have had in the past? The grain?
It's the best we can
same
do.
color?
It's the best we can do, and it does mix in
buy
as the season
Yeah,
progresses.
you try to match it pretty well, but you know, sometimes it's slightly different.
Way
So,
off.
thank you. Any other questions about the replenishment of the sand?
And the beach replenishment project also works in tandem with, I know there's only been a little bit of dredging down at Narrow River, but there's also efforts to, because obviously if we can dredge Narrow River more, then we wouldn't have all the, you know, the sand is going into the river. So those two things work together, but it's a complicated process. So, but we continue to work on that.
Thanks, Steve. All those in favor of the motion on replenishing the sand? Aye.
Aye.
Oh. On the sand replenishing, sure. Sorry, I'm going to hold that vote back.
David Winter, Boone Street. I'm going to come at this from a different angle. When I left here in '63, there was no dune at all in front of the beach. And after Hurricane Sandy, I was walking the beach just north of the beach itself, the dunes there, and part of a dune had been slashed away. It was at least 10 feet tall. And I noticed about a foot off the ground, there was a beer bottle and a beer can. In the beer bottle was a Miller Lite in a pony, which I'd never seen. And so I looked that up. It came out about 75, and I tried to calculate how much sand came back. I think what's going on is we are not losing sand. We are being overrun by sand dunes. And I think we need to manage that. And we could use our own first-class, world-class beach sand to replenish whatever's going down there. And we're going to also have to open up more of the beach between the rising tide and the encroaching sand. That's what's making the beach disappear. All we're looking at is like the water side. Those dunes, you look at all the old pictures, those dunes are brand new, they were never there. I think we need to start cutting those back and using those as opposed to buying more sand. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's part of the restoration is the dunes, saving the dunes as well. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on replenishing the sand? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. Let's see, 19, a motion to approve the 2018 contract agreement with the 42nd Annual Concert on the Beach with the Rhode Island Philharmonic Orchestra in the amount of $21,900 and authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, discussion.
I actually have some discussion on this one. I'm not quite sure if it should be on this one or motion 21. I asked Jim to do a little bit of investigating as far as what the town is putting out for the Philharmonic every single year. We do have a great sponsor, and Steve will put that on in a few minutes. But Jim, could you just review the expenses?
Yes. The Philharmonic cost is approximately $42,000 total. That includes the bill bracket. I'll break it down. The bill bracket theatrical productions of $11,300. The Rhode Island Philharmonic, $21,300. Chair rentals, tents and linens, $2,400. Dumpsters, $1,100. Porta-john, $300. The beach staff, $3,400. Lifeguards, $450. Park staff, $1,800. And the expense totals, once again, is $42,092. The amount of money that comes in to offset this is we have a sponsorship income from Citizens Bank for $10,000. The parking fees are $5 per car. We collected $2,490 last year. Bucket donations were $1,300. And the VIP ticket sales, $60, 60 of them at $50 each was $3,000. So the revenue total was $16,790, and the net expenses were $25,300.
So the town is picking up about $25,000.
That's correct.
Steve, for the parking that we had in the past, it's been optional, correct? A $5 optional to park?
No, that's not correct. For the beach seasons on a Friday, we have charging, and if you have a beach sticker, it's from 8:30 to 5, and at 5 o'clock, we charge $5 for anyone that comes back to the beach from 5 until the concert starts or during the concert.
So for the dollar amount we have, we only had 500 people, 500 cars come back after
Well,
5?
a lot of people stay for the day.
They never leave, right?
Yeah,
They stay.
They stay and they don't leave.
They take a spot in the morning and they're there till night.
Yeah, no, I understand. It just seems like it's an awful lot that we're putting out. I mean, it's a great event, but I don't know that the town needs to be the only responsible people for putting on events for people to come to town. I'm just looking for a way that potentially we could maybe recoup some of the costs. Anybody have any idea on the council at all, or any interest in looking at it? Because you add that to the fireworks, and we're adding up a lot of money. I don't go to the concert. I don't know if anybody else, and not everybody goes.
I mean, I know it's a,
Well, I think it's a flagship event for the town. I think, and
flagship is a
I
good
also
word.
know that it's these are what productions cost. So I mean, there's no way around the actual. And I think it's the fact that we have a sponsor, a corporate sponsor, is great. I mean, you could potentially look for another local corporate sponsor, but I mean,
That's a
I
good
think the
idea.
fact is, it is the fees are the fees. I mean, there's no way around that, and I would never advocate to eliminate the event. So I think it's you
Didn't
have
say
to just-
eliminate, Mike. I just said it.
Yeah, no, I'm just suggesting that if, so we look at reducing the cost in some form of sponsorship is fine, but, so.
We've looked at other sponsorships. It's very difficult to get additional sponsorships. We have other sponsors that do soft sponsors. They donate goods and services. They feed the band, which are not listed here, and they provide other services that are just not listed here. With our big premier sponsor is Citizens, which is going to give us $10,000 this year.
they've been a great partner with this. I mean, they have done that for a number of years. with
Steve,
10,000.
what's the crowd size? You estimate the crowd size?
Well, I average, we don't click them in, but it's somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000. But on a really good year, we can have up to 8,000 people on that beach. And there are a lot of people that park all along Boston Neck Road and neighborhoods near, and they'll walk in. So it can get up to 8,000 people on
a lot of people hang around, go to the restaurants, and we get tax revenue from that. We get, what, a penny?
And last year, they almost got washed away with the high tide, right?
Last year was not the best weather, but it's very hard to logistically to call it off if it wasn't raining, so hopefully we'll have a better year.
Residents and visitors look so forward to that.
The only thing we can consider doing is just is upping that parking fee a little bit at 5 o'clock. We can consider doing that, and that would boost that up a little bit. We can do that.
I would be in favor of that. $5 is a bargain, $10 to come in for a free concert.
Well, so the motion is, do we agree with it, but do you want to
Well, no,
amend that to?
Well, I want to see if anybody else has the interest of doing that.
Yeah, I'm not in favor. I
After
think
5
it's
o'clock.
great the way it works. I've been to it for a number of years. I think people are satisfied. I think the town does an incredibly good job with trying to bring in the revenue, with the donations, with the buckets, with, all the quiet sponsors around Citizens. So I'm satisfied with it, and I do think it's a flagship community event, and I'd like to just have it stay that way.
How about more buckets? You got more buckets?
They have the bucket pretty good out there.
We have the young people go out with buckets. Again, people, it's their choice whether they donate or not. But
Right. It was $1,300?
Well, it differs from year to year. I mean, some years we've had 18, 24. It really differs from year. I have statistics for the last 6 or 7 years, but it can differ. It really depends on the crowd. But I mean, believe me, we try all different avenues between the parking and the buckets and the sponsorship.
Do we have a commitment from you to continue to try to increase the revenue on that end? I mean, with the buckets and, the other sponsors, can you maybe look at that opportunity so we could vote on this?
Yeah.
If there is an opportunity, we're sure you'll jump on it, right?
It's a very popular event for the town. It's a lot of townspeople enjoy it. A lot of people from out of town enjoy it. So I think that, back to my comment I made during the public hearing, the townspeople, the taxpayers, it's something that they are footing the bill for here, but then it's up to the council on other fronts to scrutinize that budget next week and not just rubber stamp other parts of it.
No doubt about it.
It's a 0.5 cent.
Okay.
On this year's budget, it's a 0.5 cent.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody wishing from the public to
25,000.
speak? Okay, all those?
Celebrate.
Oh, Catherine, come on.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I think we could consider a $2 admission fee for adults only. I mean, I don't think that's so unreasonable to spend, hours on the beach enjoying a concert and all of that. I mean, I just don't, the kids are there anyway, the park staff, so not for the kids, just $2 per adult, $2 per family, something that could just generate a few more dollars so we don't have to absorb so much of this cost.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Did you vote yes or no, Jill?
I'm thinking.
Yes, so I have 4 yeses, and I'm waiting
Yeah,
on
it's just a tough one, because I know that when we look at the budget, we're going to have other things. We're going to have the movie nights at the beach. We have a whole, a litany of wonderful things that we do for the community and for
Right, so we're,
non-community.
so 4 are in favor?
Steve, are you going to get me some more money, more sponsorships? Who's the bucket kid? So can we get like Patrick's kid out there with a bucket looking for money?
Yeah, I'll get out there with a bucket. I got no
I mean-
problem with that.
All of the movies on the beach and the concerts on the beach are all paid for by sponsors, so we
I
do-
know, but we still have to staff the beach. We still have to do so many things. I'm just,
Yeah, and obviously, we staff the beach for those
Yeah.
nights for restrooms. We have to staff
I
them
know.
for public safety, so.
I know.
Thank you.
Yes.
So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 21, a motion to approve the sponsorship agreement with Citizens Bank for the 2018 Rhode Island Philharmonic sponsorship. 21.
20.
We just voted on it.
No, it'd be 19.
There are 3. Susan.
There's 3.
Okay, so, excuse me, there are 4, right? 19 we just did, I'm sorry, 20, so we're on 20, my apologies. A motion to approve the 2018 contract agreement for production support services with Bill Brackett Theatrical Productions LLC for the 42nd Annual Concert on the Beach in the amount of $11,000, and authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor. Do I have a motion?
I
So
got half
moved.
of it right there.
Second.
You save half the money right there.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have discussion? Anybody on the council wishing to discuss? Anybody from the public wishing to discuss? Motion 20. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes. 21, a motion to approve the sponsorship agreement with Citizens Bank for the 2018 Rhode Island Philharmonic sponsorship. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Anybody from?
Thank you, Steve, for obtaining these, the sponsors, because I know that it's a project to get big sponsors for events like this.
Yeah, great job.
Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Seeing no one? All those in favor of 21?
Aye.
5-0. Steve, thanks. It's always a great time down there. 22, a motion to approve and authorize the expenditure of $15,000 to the Dunes Club, which represents 50% of the total fee of the 2018 fireworks display on the Beach Enterprise Fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion?
Are they asking for this money? Or are they going to say, well, since we just got that 10%
It's a-
reduction, maybe they could just,
Excuse me, we'll have Steve come up. I didn't know if somebody was speaking in the chamber, but Steve, you want to come up? It's a partnership that we've had with the Dunes Club, but why don't you elaborate on that?
no, I understand. I guess, Susan, my question is that since we had in Patrick's motion, your motion to help out the small businesses like Mr. Traeger's company, the Dunes Club benefited significantly with a 10% discount with tax revenue. So I'm just wondering, are they asking for it, or are they not asking for it? Maybe they'd be extra nice neighbors and not have us have half of the fireworks display this year because of the tax benefits.
I think if we went to a single tax rate, they'd probably spring for it, but
Open myself up to you
Again,
for that
it's
one,
an
Pat.
event that we've done. I mean, I think we
I
joined.
understand, but we just had a
yeah,
change
yeah.
in taxes, so it's a question to ask. If we can save the money, why not?
I know you're good. I can see. Steve's like.
This is a
yeah.
partnership we've had
Yeah.
since I've been here, since 2011. Other than one year in 2014, I believe, we did not partner with them. So we've been sharing the partnership with them. We were putting it out to bid for a few years, but they've been actually acquiring the fireworks in the barge and doing all the logistics behind that. We've been cost sharing with them for the last 3 years.
Steve, so to retrace the history, 2015, we brought it back, right? 2014, I remember because Susan and I were on the council at the
That's
time.
correct.
And that was the one year we didn't have it. And there was, so prior to me being on the council and you being, because you kind of came on right when I came on in 2012.
2012, right.
Was it always a 50-50 split in the town with tunes?
Years ago, I think
No.
they used to pay
Did
for
we
it.
foot the bill?
No, I think years ago, if I remember, I think the Dunes Club used to pay for it.
What changed?
believe.
Yeah, but that was,
How did it
I think that was a Dunes Club only fireworks
Right
system.
about
That
Yeah,
wasn't.
it was. That's how it was. It was
Yeah, that
originally
was-
Dunes Club, and we got involved because the town wanted to have a display, so we split it. So that's how the partnership started. They had it, and then when they canceled or didn't have it, it became like, oh, there's no fireworks in Narragansett. So we joined a partnership, and for the last several years, we have decided to split that cost.
Prior to 2015, it was held on July 3rd, and we, 2015, 16, 17, and this year is July 4th.
Right. Any other questions? Thank you, Steve. Any questions from the public? Dave?
David Winter, Boone Street. I love the fireworks, and but what happens is they get a little bit repetitive. And I was wondering if we could shorten the works, but have some more really spectacular shots than just after a while, it's just like the same thing over and over and over again. Just to like shorten the total. It's only like 10 or 15 minutes, so shorten it a couple of minutes, but have some real spectacular, dragons flying in the air or something like that.
So,
Thank you.
I remember one year when it was short, I think it was the lighting of the tree, or maybe it was 4th of July, it was short, and people were upset because it was a very expensive, short display.
So this is the most stressful event that I have to deal with.
I know, because of the weather and...
For those questions, the position of the barge, and the weather, and all that. So last year, and I time it, so last year, to that point, last year, the event was 24 minutes and 22 seconds long.
People were happy with that.
Yeah, and they were very happy with it. And the weather was actually very good last year, so.
The year before wasn't so great. Yeah, thank you.
And it was a very diverse, with a very good ending, so I think, and if you take a look at, and that's off a barge because of the piping plover. During the winter is only a 15-minute show, and it's a lot less expensive because we do it off the parking lot.
That's right.
If you have any relatives getting
Three
married.
Dragons, the Three Dragons.
If you have any relatives
Any
getting
other-
married,
any other-
ask Steve Wright for the weather forecast for the last 5 years.
I know it's very
So,
stressful for him, I know.
I can
talked
tell you,
to
I could
him.
play golf on July 8th, 2012, 13, 14.
Well, there's some things you can control, and the weather you can't, but I know it's worrisome for you, for sure. Any other questions about the fireworks? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that 5-0? Motion passes, and I think I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion's adjourned. Good night.